This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
A Senate vote to end the government shutdown hours after it began has failed.
I actually don't think it's going to be that long of a shutdown.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
What's open, what's closed, and which federal employees are working with no paycheck? I'm Rich Johnson.
Federal Reserve Board member Lisa Cook will stay on the job for now.
She was fired well within the president's legal authority.
Jennifer King, Washington.
A high-rise building in the Bronx catches fire after an explosion.
We have no loss of life.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, what government shutdown? The markets hit record highs yesterday. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A federal prosecutor appointed by President Trump has been disqualified from overseeing multiple criminal cases. I'm Mike Hempen.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Day 2 of the government shutdown. And on Capitol Hill, each side is blaming the other after another Wednesday vote in the Senate went exactly like the one Tuesday that put the partial closure of the government in motion. The latest from Washington with correspondent Sagar Meghani.
Right here, Mr. President. It's in front of us. Right here. We can pass this today. Pass it right now. All we have to do, get support from the Democrats. House has passed it. This is the House passed bill. We take it up in the Senate, pass it, send it to the President. President signs it into law, and the government stays funded.
A Senate vote to end the government shutdown hours after it began has failed.
On this vote, the yeas are 55 and the nays are 45. 3/5 of the Senate duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmation. The motion is not agreed to.
Both sides are holding firm, with Democrats insisting on funding for health care subsidies and Republicans refusing.
A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things. When you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and the Democrats, they're going to be Democrats.
The blame game is in full effect, with both sides saying the other caused the shutdown.
And everybody's now asking the question, how does this end? Well, it ends when the Senate Democrats pick this bill up, passed by the House of Representatives, and vote for it.
The way out of this is for Republicans to finally roll up their sleeves and get to work.
Top Senate leaders John Thune and Chuck Schumer at the White House.
I actually don't think it's going to be that long of a shutdown.
Vice President J.D. Vance says some Democrats have already flipped sides, but at least 5 more have to sign on. And if the shutdown drags on.
Let's be honest. If this thing drags on for another few days or, God forbid, another few weeks, we are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so the essential services don't get turned off in other places.
Roughly 750,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed, some potentially fired. For now, the shutdown's immediate impacts are being felt at places like Acadia National Park in Maine, which is largely shut down. Visitor Jim Feathers frustrated with Congress.
Their job is to pass a budget, and if they're not doing their job, what are they doing down there?
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
There's a long list of federal agencies that are closed, or at least closed to the public, and nearly 750,000 government workers are waiting to see if they'll be furloughed or fired. Correspondent Rich Johnson takes a look at who is and who is not on the job.
One of the most visible signs of the shutdown are the locks and chains on the doors at national park facilities, like the Pullman National Monument in Chicago.
It's sad that we're all this way and we can't get the stamp, can't see inside the building.
Thought I'd stop and see it and check it off my list.
Those people speaking to WLS-TV were foiled in their attempts to add the monument stamp to their national park passports.
You know, they won't find visitor centers open usually. They won't find custodial maintenance in some places. There will be limited emergency response in many of the areas.
A lot of tourists in Washington are also frustrated, but these D.C. residents worry about people's livelihoods.
I think a lot of people are already losing their job.
People trying to play it as like a politics game when there's actual lives being affected it's not great.
Social Security Administration worker Carrie Kisner says this shutdown feels different.
In the past, we'd get a lot of information, papers, and have meetings, and I think you kind of have furlough fatigue after a while.
The comments of Kisner and the D.C. residents, courtesy of WTTG. Most federal agencies, even those still open, have closed their public offices. Federal courts are open, but may have to start postponing cases if the shutdown continues. Social Security, veterans benefits, and other government checks will go out. Mail delivery continues. The armed forces are at their posts, but won't get paid till the shutdown's over. The president and members of Congress are getting paid, even if their staffs are not. And yes, you may still fly. TSA screeners and air traffic controllers are at their posts, but they're not getting paid.
Let's hope that we can just all get to the table and put political differences aside and focus on what matters, and that's the American people.
That traveler in Seattle, courtesy of KOMO. I'm Rich Johnson.
When we return on America in the Morning, among the stories we're covering, the Supreme Court weighs in on a firing made by Donald Trump after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Many areas of the nation today will be experiencing dry conditions. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Danielle Erisman.
The last time many cities near the East Coast received rain was last Sunday. Some places in the Great Lakes, such as Chicago, have not received any rain in well over a week now. Drought conditions are already in place across much of the Midwest and Northeast, and it is growing due to how dry it's been recently. The exception for the eastern two-thirds of the country will be across the Florida Peninsula. Widespread repeated downpours are forecast into Monday next week, and these will also carry the risk of some localized flash flooding. Otherwise, high pressure will prevent rain from falling in most places east of the Rockies until this weekend and the next week, but a storm can bring some rain from the Great Plains around Nebraska and Wyoming and the Dakotas later this weekend. Chicago could see some raindrops as early as Sunday night into Monday, while places such as Philadelphia and New York City will likely have to wait a little bit longer to break their dry stretch, with some showers Tuesday night into Wednesday. Even a place as far south as Houston could break their dry stretch with some showers this weekend and early next week as well. And this dryness is already having a bit of an adverse effect on fall foliage in certain regions, especially New England. The peak of foliage occurred about a week prior to when it normally does. And it is common for trees to drop their leaves a bit early or even be a bit more dull in color at peak where there's been very long stretches of dry weather, late summer and early fall, and or temperatures above historical averages. Los Angeles today, areas of low clouds early this morning, turning out mostly sunny with a high of 80. Boston today, mostly sunny with a high of only 61. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Danielle Erisman.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Listen on your preferred platform when you search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Supreme Court has weighed into President Trump's legal battle to fire a Biden-appointed Federal Reserve governor. Details from correspondent Jennifer King.
Federal Reserve Board member Lisa Cook will stay on the job for now. In a brief order, the Supreme Court declined to act on President Trump's emergency appeal, seeking to immediately remove her from her job at the central bank. The High Court will hear arguments in her case in January. The president's attorneys have accused Cook of mortgage fraud and argue that even if the alleged conduct occurred before her time as governor, it calls her trustworthiness into question.
We have respect for the Supreme Court, but they're going to hear the actual case and make a determination on the legal argument in January, and we look forward to that because we maintain that she was fired well within the president's legal authority to do so.
Cook denies any wrongdoing and has said she will not be bullied. President Trump has long been arguing for the Fed to lower a key interest rate in the name of helping the economy, and at the Fed meeting in September, his most recent Fed nominee, Stephen Moran, did vote for a larger rate cut. But an amicus brief by former heads of the Fed and the Treasury argue that the bank must remain independent to maintain its credibility. No president has fired a sitting Fed governor in the central bank's 112-year history. Jennifer King, Washington.
New York authorities are investigating an explosion that caused structural damage to a high-rise apartment building in the Bronx. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The explosion caused the Mitchell House's apartments on Alexander Avenue in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx to partially collapse. The apartments belong to the NYC Housing Authority. New York City Mayor Eric Adams spoke to reporters about the building fire, which is believed to be gas-related.
We are extremely fortunate. At this time, we have no loss of life or no injuries.
The explosion collapsed the shaft of the 20-story building, but the rest of the structure appeared to be stable. Now crews looking into the integrity of that building, and investigators are trying to find an exact cause of the explosion. I'm Clayton Neville.
How the stock market performs during a government shutdown may surprise you. That and more in Thursday Business when America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues this Thursday with the Business Report. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after investors shook off the government shutdown and sent the Dow and the S&P 500 index to record highs to start October and fourth quarter trading. Nike shares popped up 6% on strong quarterly results. It's a member of the Dow. The S&P 500 index opens this morning above 6,700 for the very first time.
The government shutdown, if you look over history, markets, they've actually done pretty well through a lot of the shutdowns. There have been a few here and there that have been bumpy, but on average, returning somewhere between 2 and 3% in the 3 months following a shutdown. So even this isn't necessarily something to be that concerned about.
SoFi's Liz Thomas on CNBC. Here's another take from Truist's Keith Lerner on CNBC.
Historically, we've had 20 shutdowns. The S&P has been flat. Doesn't mean there's not variation, doesn't mean there's not volatility, but it tends to be short term. So from a portfolio standpoint, we don't want to make any real drastic changes based on this. I think at the end of the day, in 2 weeks, earnings season starts again, and that will be the North Star of the market as it has been all year.
Two big economic reports likely delayed because of the government shutdown. The Labor Department's September jobs report supposed to be out tomorrow morning. And then the next inflation report. But we do have some new jobs data, and it's not great. Private sector employment lost 32,000 jobs in September in the new ADP employment report, the biggest drop since March of 2023.
According to ADP, we're in negative territory when it comes to the jobs report. And you saw what happened to the bond market, a big rally there, as well as in the Fed funds, where now there's a lot more confidence in an October cut and a December cut as well.
CNBC senior economics reporter Steve Leisman. Auto sales were pretty good in the third quarter that ended Tuesday.
Well, we got a solid quarter, about 16.2 million vehicles. We haven't gotten the final number yet, but there was a time when people were expecting the third quarter to be down in the mid 15 million range. That's not the case. And when you look at all of the numbers from the automakers, but it's the EV sales because of the expiration of the federal EV tax credit. That's why you saw EVs up more than 100% from GM, at 100% for Hyundai, and then Ford, 30% increase, and that's year over year.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. Peloton shares fell on a revamped lineup with upgraded hardware, but also a price increase announcement. The Peloton bike goes to $1,700, and monthly subscriptions go to $50 a month. On today's watch list, Tesla releases third quarter vehicle deliveries. Target will open select stores at midnight tonight around the country to sell Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl.
All right, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, Trump-appointed U.S. attorney disqualified by the courts after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The second Trump-appointed acting U.S. attorney has been disqualified by the courts. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports that Nevada's top prosecutor is disqualified from handling cases.
A federal prosecutor appointed by President Trump has been disqualified from overseeing multiple criminal cases. U.S. District Judge David Campbell has disqualified Sagar Meghani from supervising 4 criminal prosecutions in Nevada. Campbell ruled she is not validly serving as the state's top federal prosecutor. The ruling sides with defense lawyers who argued that Meghani's authority expired in July, and now she is serving unlawfully. This is the second recent setback for the administration's effort to extend hand-picked acting U.S. attorneys beyond the 120-day limit set by federal law. A judge reached the same conclusion in August about the acting U.S. attorney in New Jersey. I'm Mike Hempen.
A military base in New Jersey went under lockdown Tuesday after receiving a report of an active shooter. Now comes word that the incident was merely a hoax set in motion by a worker on the base who purportedly wanted to fit in with her co-workers. Correspondent Julie Walker explains.
An active shooter hoax that prompted a lockdown at New Jersey's largest military base Tuesday was caused by an employee who wanted to trauma bond with her colleagues. That's according to officials. Civilian Malika Brittingham, who is assigned to Joint Base McGuire Dix Lakehurst, faces charges she knowingly conveyed false information about an active shooter who did not exist, according to federal prosecutors. Brittingham allegedly texted someone about a shooter on the base. That person called 911. According to prosecutors, Brittingham told investigators she carried out the hoax because she had been ostracized by her co-workers and hoped that their shared experience in response to an active shooter would allow them to trauma bond. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Thursday, October 2nd, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour,
the economic fallout of the government shutdown is expected to ripple around the country. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The vice president and president seemingly share a sense of humor, but Democrats say they're not funny. I'm Clayton Neville.
EU leaders are weighing a scheme to provide long-term financial and military support to Ukraine. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The gold frenzy is reaching new heights. I'm Mike Hempen.
Wheel of Fortune had a historic win this week. I'm Kevin Carr.
Who the government shutdown impacts. Israel intercepts a Gaza flotilla. How the EU wants to use Russian money to fund Ukraine. And sports with our Robert Workman. Back after these messages. Welcome back, and thanks for listening. America in the Morning continues on this mostly dry Thursday across the nation. Frost advisories out for portions of the Northeast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Danielle Erisman.
A storm moving into the western United States will bring rain to the Central Valley of California, Sierra Nevada, and Idaho and western Montana today. Temperatures may actually get cold enough this weekend for snow to fall above 6,000 feet in the Rockies this weekend. Otherwise, sprawling high pressure across the central and eastern United States will leave most places dry, mainly sunny, and very warm into next week. Across the Great Plains, temperatures will be 10 to 20 degrees above historical averages, and many records will be at stake later this week into the weekend. For example, Minneapolis may tie or break their record high of 90 set back in 1997 on Friday. Even down to the Gulf Coast, it should be quite warm, with high temperatures in the 90s forecast from South Texas to Dallas to Houston into Saturday. In contrast to this, the Northeast will be relatively chilly, with highs in the 50s and 60s. Today, and even the risk of some frost or freeze later tonight and early this morning, although the warm air will be making its way eastward into this weekend. Some cities in the eastern U.S. will also challenge some of their record highs this weekend and early next week. The height of the warmth will arrive Monday and Tuesday with the most widespread high temperatures in the 80s. Florida will be the exception in these cases and should experience rounds of showers and thunderstorms in the early next week. These could create ponding on roads in low-lying areas and even localized flash flooding in some cases. Otherwise, most places will likely have to wait until Tuesday night or Wednesday next week to receive any rain. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Danielle Erisman.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The U.S. Senate cannot find the votes needed from Democrats to end the government shutdown, and with the House not in session, it appears there may be no immediate pathway to closure of the budget situation unless both sides can find common ground. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports on the pain of a government shutdown that could get worse as the days drag on.
The economic fallout of the government shutdown is expected to ripple around the country. Roughly 250,000 federal workers are expected to be furloughed, and some potentially fired.
Let's be honest. If this thing drags on for another few days, or God forbid another few weeks, we are going to have to lay people off. We're going to have to save money in some places so that essential services don't get turned off in other places.
Other Americans who rely on benefit payments, work contracts, and various services are now in turmoil.
This shutdown was avoidable. This shutdown was unnecessary. This shutdown will directly hurt Maryland. We could see big infrastructure projects delayed. We could see military families, people who've already sacrificed for this country, go without pay for weeks. We could see small businesses dip into the red.
The Trump administration tried to blunt the impacts of what became the nation's longest shutdown during his first term. This time,
we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them.
He's warning of retribution against Democrats whom he blames for the funding lapse.
Like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
And this shutdown could drag on, with neither side showing signs of backing down.
I don't know. I can't predict what congressional Democrats are going to do, Peter, but I actually don't think it's going to be that long of a shutdown. This is a pure guess from the Vice President of the United States, because I think you already saw some evidence that moderate Democrats are cracking a little bit. They understand the fundamental illogic of this.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The government shutdown isn't just causing angst for federal employees, many of whom will have to still show up at work and do their jobs but not collect a paycheck. Average Americans will also feel the pain of a shutdown, from construction workers at government-funded projects to people who were hoping to see sights on their vacation like a national park or the Statue of Liberty. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Under a government shutdown contingency plan by the Park Service, roads, lookouts, trails, and open-air memorials will generally remain accessible to visitors. However, parks without accessible areas will be closed.
Their job is to pass a budget, and if they're not doing their job, what are they doing down there? You know, if I just decided I didn't want to do my job, I wouldn't have a job anymore.
Bad news for Jim Feather from Pennsylvania on vacation, trying to tour Arcadian National Park.
We wanted to check it out, but everything's shut down, so we don't really get to do a whole lot of the actual official stuff. So we'll probably wind up just kind of driving around the park as much as we can, but without any guides or anything, that's difficult.
Bill Wade is executive director of the Association of National Park Rangers.
They won't find visitor centers open usually. They won't find custodial maintenance in some places. There will be limited emergency response.
His advice: check online. I'm Julie Walker.
While members of Congress will still be paid, service workers at the U.S. Capitol will not. The people who deliver your mail will get a paycheck, but those handling security at airports and air traffic controllers will still have to report to work without a paycheck. Among others who still have to do their jobs without getting paid, U.S. Border Patrol agents and members of the military. Finally, the Government Employee Fair Treatment Act, passed by Congress in 2019, requires all federal employees to receive retroactive pay once the government shutdown ends. Vice President J.D. Vance is rejecting claims that a viral AI video posted by President Trump on social media mocking House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is racist. Correspondent Clayton Neville explains.
The AI video posted on President Trump's Truth Social account showed House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries wearing a mustache and a sombrero with mariachi music playing in the background. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer also depicted in that video.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left.
The post came before the government shutdown over tensions surrounding health care. Jeffries, who's called the video racist, spoke more about it with MSNBC.
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people.
During a press conference this week about the government shutdown, Vice President J.D. Vance was asked as head of the Senate if the president's video was divisive.
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even, poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the Sombrero memes will stop. And I've talked to the President of the United States about that.
Jeffries doesn't appear to see humor in any of it.
The next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
When asked about other videos and memes shared by President Trump, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the president enjoys sharing them. She added she thinks it's refreshing to have a president who she described as being open and honest. I'm Clayton Neville.
Now in Israeli custody, environmental activist Greta Thunberg. The story, When America in the Morning, continues after these messages. FBI Director Kash Patel is cutting ties with the Anti-Defamation League that the Bureau forged under its former boss, James Comey. Patel has ended a training and intelligence sharing partnership with ADL, accusing the organization of spying on conservative groups. Patel announced the decision in a social media post. Elon Musk at one time suggested the partnership between the FBI and the ADL contributed to the FBI investigating the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk and other conservatives during its probe of the president and his aides for their alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. America in the Morning continues. Environmental activist Greta Thunberg is now in Israel's custody after the flotilla of ships she was on that was heading to Gaza was intercepted by the Israeli Navy. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports those taken into custody will be deported by the end of the week.
This is the Israeli Navy. You are approaching a blockaded zone. If you wish to deliver aid to Gaza, you may do so through the established channels. Please change your course toward the port of Ashdod, where the aid will undergo a security inspection and then be transferred into the Gaza Strip.
Activists on board a flotilla of vessels sailing towards Gaza says that the Israeli Navy is intercepting their vessels as they approach the Palestinian territory.
Okay, phones on the water, please. Phones on the water. Now.
The Global Summit flotilla with Greta Thunberg, Nelson Mandela's grandson Mandela Mandela, and several European lawmakers aboard consists of nearly 50 boats and 500 activists and is carrying a symbolic amount of humanitarian aid. Several activists posted videos on social media saying Israeli naval vessels were approaching the flotilla and ordering them to turn off their engines. Italy's foreign minister confirmed the Israeli intervention, saying that the boats would be towed to an Israeli port where the activists would be deported in the coming days. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
With concerns mounting by European nations as the Russian war with Ukraine continues, the EU plans to put further pressure on the Kremlin to help Ukraine, and that aid will be in the form of Russian money. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
EU leaders are weighing a scheme to provide long-term financial and military support to Ukraine, using hundreds of billions of dollars in frozen Russian assets. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says a reparation loan plan is under consideration at this week's summit.
We have to increase the pressure on Russia. And this is why I have proposed reparation loans for Ukraine on the basis of the immobilized Russian assets. We are not confiscating the assets, but we are taking the cash balances for loan to Ukraine. Ukraine has to pay back this loan if Russia pays reparations.
The Kremlin says the EU intentions amount to plans to illegally confiscate Russian property. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
With economic uncertainty, the situations in the Middle East and Ukraine, and the government shutdown, gold prices have soared to record highs. Mike Hempen reports.
As the federal government's first shutdown in nearly 7 years creates uncertainty, the gold frenzy is reaching new heights. The going price for New York spot gold has climbed to almost $3,900 per troy ounce. Gold futures have increased more than 45% since the start of 2025, a time when President Trump's tariffs have plunged much of the world into economic uncertainty. Interest in buying metals such as gold typically spikes when investors become anxious. But gold can be volatile. The Commodity Futures Trade Commission has warned people to be wary, saying if you choose to invest in gold, you should educate yourself on safe trading practices and be cautious of potential scams and counterfeits on the market. I'm Mike Hempen.
T-Mobile announces a host of new apps that will work on your cell phone even when you have no bars out in the middle of nowhere. Chuck Palm has that in today's Tech Report.
T-Mobile will be adding a cosmic signal to your cellular service, courtesy of 650 Starlink birds from SpaceX, beaming signals into the boonies where cellular service just can't be found. This service was launched in July with basics like SMS and MMS, short audio clips, and, as of October 1st, a full squadron of everyday apps. Google Maps, WhatsApps, and Trails, as well as X, so you can complain from anywhere on the planet. Apple Music, Pixel Weather, Samsung Find, AccuWeather, and All Trails also made the cut. Compatible phones will auto-switch to satellite mode when the signal ghosts you, tapping an API that's all baked into T-Mobile's Experience Beyond plan at no extra charge for T-Mobile customers. This isn't just a big tech flex. It's estimated that 14% of Americans are in cellular data dark zones. Follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Here's Robert Workman with a check of sports.
Baseball's wild card playoffs going the distance in 3 of the 4 series. The only exception in the National League, where the World Series champion Dodgers dispatched the Reds 8-4 last night to complete the 2-game sweep. After a 5-home-run barrage in the opener, LA got 6 two-baggers, 3 of those off the bat of Mookie Betts, who drove in 3 runs. Yoshinobu Yamamoto gave up a couple of runs in the first inning, then retired 13 batters in a row while his offense got into gear. Freddie Freeman loves the feeling.
No, this never gets old. When there's champagne being sprayed, that means good things are happening.
The Dodgers now head to Philadelphia for the division series starting Saturday. The Padres rode their flame-throwing arms and Manny Machado's bat to a 3-0 win over the Cubs. Dylan Cease and Mason Miller each struck out 5 as 4 San Diego pitchers held Chicago to 4 hits. And Machado's 2-run shot in the 5th was plenty of offense.
Our boys went out there and, competed as well as we can and, leave it on the field.
They'll settle that series in the late afternoon at Wrigley Field. In the American League, the Guardians put up a 5-spot in the 8th to take down the Tigers 6-1 and force a decisive Game 3 this afternoon. Brian Rocchio put Cleveland in front with a homer to right, and Bo Naylor wrapped up the rally with a 3-run blast. And the Yankees squeaked past the Red Sox 4-3 to earn a split of the first 2 games in the Bronx. Jazz Chisholm Jr. scored from first on a 2-out single in the 8th inning, just beating the tag for the winning run.
It's a must-win. We always put everything out there on the line, especially it's the playoffs. You want to win every game.
Game 3 is tonight in primetime. Week 5 in the NFL begins tonight when the 49ers visit the Rams. The Niners will be without quarterback Brock Purdy and 3 more receivers due to injury. The offense already missing George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk. That's Thursday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, a game show winner for the record books after these messages. She spent her life studying apes and chimpanzees, making groundbreaking discoveries. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports on the death of famed pioneer primatologist Jane Goodall.
Primatologist and conservationist Jane Goodall has died. She was 91. Goodall started living among chimpanzees in Africa starting in the 1960s. One of them stood out. She named him David Greybeard.
Seeing him using and making tools to fish for termites, because up until that time,
Western science thought humans and only humans used and made tools.
Goodall's research transformed how the world perceived chimpanzees and all humans.
When you're alone, you can become part of nature, and your humanity doesn't get in the way. And it's easier to understand this amazing tapestry of life.
She also found chimps have individual personalities and share humans' emotions of pleasure, joy, sadness, and fear. Her institute says Jane Goodall died of natural causes in California. I'm Ed Donahue.
Taking Would You Like to Buy a Vowel to a whole new level, entertainment reporter Kevin Carr has the story of a contestant who did something that hasn't been done since the program debuted 50 years ago, winning the largest amount of cash and prizes on the long-running TV game show Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune lived up to its name this week.
Living things, that is the category.
Pack of coyotes.
Christina, they're going to miss you at work. You just won $1 million! Christina Derevjenik became the 5th contestant in the show's history to win $1 million in the bonus round. But that wasn't the only notable thing about her victory.
$1,035,155 a grand total.
Derevjenik's winnings were the highest amount anyone has ever won in the history of the game show. Prior to solving her winning puzzle, Derevjenik joked with host Ryan Seacrest about what she would do if she hit that jackpot.
What happens if you win $1 million?
I may be putting in my 2 weeks, but we won't tell her that yet.
The following morning on Good Morning America, Derevjenik spoke about her life-changing win, and she even brought her boss to the studio with her.
I'm going to be staying at work.
Jen, I'll bet you're happy about that.
I sure am. She's great. I'm happy to be cheering her on all the way through.
Derevjenik explained her strategy to keeping her winnings throughout the episode.
I knew the likelihood of hitting a bankrupt in the rest of the game was pretty high, so I just tried to spin the least amount as possible.
Because the show is taped, Derevjenik had to keep things under wraps for 4 months. Now she is happy to say she won't be quitting her job, but rather plans to use her winnings to pay off her student loans and invest in a home. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Thursday, October 2nd, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.